Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another Summerween reading vlog. Today is day 4 of Summerween. I am very excited for this vlog because this is going to be the last, I think, 4 days of Summerween, but this is a vampire reading vlog. I think I have 4 vampire books that I'm going to be reading for the rest of the Summerween readathon. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. If you guys didn't see the first vlog, which was days 1 through 3, I will have that linked down below. I found a new favorite horror book, so it's definitely one to watch. But let's just get right into it, okay? The first book that I started is The Gathering by CJ Tudor. I picked this one up on audio because my library doesn't have a physical copy of it for some reason, so I just got it through Libby, and I've been listening to the audiobook today. I am now 44% of the way through it, and I will say I am enjoying it. The only other book that I have previously read from CJ Tudor is The Drift, and I did not enjoy that one. I gave it 2 stars, and now I am learning that that seems to be a popular opinion, that not a lot of people liked that one. So I'm hoping that's just like a fluke and I can still enjoy some of CJ Tudor's other books, because I know she has a pretty good amount published, I think. So this one takes place in Alaska, and it's definitely giving me more like thriller mystery vibes than a horror, but all I knew about this book before going into it was that it was like a detective investigating a murder in rural Alaska, and that is what it is. And I was like, okay, well, I know it's about vampires, so maybe the vampires were responsible for the murder and these people are going to figure out that vampires exist. But it's actually so much more interesting than that, because this is actually a world in which vampires do exist and everybody knows that vampires exist. So our main character, the one that is investigating this murder, she actually, I think, has like a doctorate of vampire forensics. I don't know, some sort of vampire anthropology, I think. I don't know, but she's got some degree in that, which I think is really interesting. So it's just like a known thing that vampire colonies exist, and humans have learned so much more about them and are debunking popular myths, and they are trying to be able to live in peace with the vampires. But it's really interesting because obviously there's a lot of tension between the two groups. There are a lot of people that are still holding on to these old myths that they have, and that they believe vampires are dangerous and that we need to commit genocide and just kill all of the vampires. But then there's people like our main character who studied these creatures and know more about them and are really trying to like protect their reputation. So when there's a murder, I guess, that occurs from the vampires, because they've learned to live off of like animal blood, so if there is a big crime or killings that are committed, they can do like, they can cull the colony, which means like kill everybody, but they have to have like a justified reason to do that. So when there is a boy that is murdered in this town and our main character gets flown into Alaska to investigate this, a lot of the townspeople are calling for all of the vampires to be killed, but she is investigating the murder because she wants to see if it's actually a vampire killing, and if they do go ahead with wiping out the colony, like they have to have good reason and like beyond a reasonable doubt, is that the phrase, that vampires actually committed this murder. So I think that's really interesting because I wasn't expecting that to be like the idea of the book. I wasn't expecting to be in a world where vampires do exist. So now I'm not going to say anything more about the plot because we're just getting into like the murder mystery of it, and she's trying to solve the murder, and she is uncovering a lot of things in this small town, and we are learning more about the vampires, which I think is really interesting. And there's a little bit of a side plot happening, like we are getting these like chapters from a different perspective that we haven't quite gotten to piece together yet, but obviously like we'll have a hand in the bigger story. But I am really enjoying it so far, and I'm really happy. I think the biggest issue that I had with The Drift is that there was like too much stuff going on and none of it made any sense or like worked well together, and that's definitely not the case here. I think that this is a pretty compelling mystery so far. I don't have too much more to say about that one. I'm gonna go do my workout now and continue listening to the audiobook, and I will come and talk to you guys later. Happy day 5. Excuse the post-workout look. I didn't update you guys again yesterday because I didn't really have an update. I will be fully honest, like this will not be a very exciting vlog. There's not going to be a lot of things happening here because it is just a regular work week for me, but it's day 5. Happy Summerween. And I have some updates for you guys. So today I actually finished The Gathering by CJ Tudor on audio. I just finished it during my workout, and I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it way more than The Drift, and I think I will read at least one more time from CJ Tudor just to get more of a feel for some of her other books and see if there's another one that I like even more than this one. But I did enjoy it. I think I mentioned it already. It's definitely more mystery than it is anything else, but I do think it was a very compelling mystery that definitely keeps you interested, but it's not one of those that you can like really try to solve along the way because information is slowly revealed to you as it is revealed to the characters. And then there's also like you don't get a whole lot of answers until like the very last chapter. That's kind of the type of book that this one is. But I did enjoy like the way that the mystery was told. I liked it. Like I said, I thought it was compelling. I thought it was interesting, and I really liked the inclusion of vampires, and like I said, the way that it's just like a common thing in this world, and I didn't know that before going into the book, so I feel like that was just a really fun element. And it also kind of adds like almost a political level to it because you get to see both sides, like people that do, you know, have studied the vampires and they have a bigger understanding and really view them as like the living beings that they are, but then you also have people on the other side of the spectrum that it almost feels like a commentary on, you know, racism and like genocide, and they're like calling for the murder of all of these creatures, and they like to go out and hunt the vampires as well. And then it was also like a conversation about the existence of the vampires themselves and how they pretty much are only allowed to live under the rules that the humans have set for them. So like they can't work, they have to like stick to their colony. If they kill a human, even if one vampire from the colony kills a human and they can prove that it was a vampire that killed them, then they wipe out the entire colony. So like, yes, they are free to live and exist in the world with humans, but they're not really free. And so I thought that just added a very like interesting kind of political climate to the world of the story. I thought it was very, very fun and atmospheric. This is definitely a good like winter read because it is Alaska. It's like freezing and snowing, and I think it takes place in November, so it's definitely the perfect like winter vibe, and I enjoyed it. So 3.5 stars. It wasn't my all-time favorite, but it definitely like gave me more hope to read more from CJ Tudor in the future. And then the other update I have for you guys, I started my next book last night, which is The Madness by Dawn Kurtagich. I hope that's how you pronounce her name because that's how I've been saying it this whole time. Let me just, before we even start talking about this book, can we take a moment to see how beautiful this is? You can't really see, it's like a library cover, so it's covered in plastic, and I know it doesn't really translate onto the camera, but this moth right here is like shimmery and it's so pretty. And then wait for this, you guys, because I was not expecting this. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, we need the close-up because that is so pretty. Anyway, I started this last night, got about 100 or so pages in, and then I've been reading some more. I read some more on break today, and now I am 150 pages in, which is chapter 16, and I'm really liking this one so far. So to give you some background, our main character, whose name I definitely know, her name is Mina, and she is a doctor. She is a psychiatrist, I believe, and she specializes in working with women that have gone through trauma. So we start off the book, she gets a new patient who is exhibiting very strange behaviors and a lot of strange symptoms, which of course in that line of work is not entirely unusual. Sorry, my boyfriend just started the shower, so if you start to hear like water, that's what it is. But obviously like having strange behaviors isn't totally abnormal with the line of work that she's in. But then she gets a call, not a call, but an email from her best friend Lucy, her childhood best friend, who she has not seen or spoken to in 12 years. And Lucy basically tells her like, there's something wrong with me and the doctors don't know what it is. I need you, please come home. And so she pretty much drops everything and travels back to her hometown to meet with her best friend. And she notices that Lucy is exhibiting a lot of the same symptoms and a lot of the behaviors as this new patient of hers. And now she is digging deeper into the mystery of that and trying to connect the two of them, and then also other cases of young women that have gone missing or have died. So it's interesting so far. I don't want to say too much more about the plot, but I do think our main character Mina is a really interesting character to follow. They don't outright say it, but I think it is very clear that she is somebody who's dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. She is very like focused on cleanliness and very meticulously cleaning everything and like counting in her head, and just kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like obsessive about that. And I think it's very clear that, you know, that is OCD, although they haven't said it. I think we are supposed to infer that as the readers. And she has also suffered a trauma in her past, which I'm sure had something to do with her getting into the line of work that she is in. But there's also a lot of other areas of tension within the story as well. There's one other doctor that she has to work closely with who is very like dismissive towards his female patients, and is clearly just not a very good practitioner when it comes to treating people, especially women that have gone through trauma. He's also very dismissive of Mina herself as a doctor. It's very rooted in a lot of sexism and misogyny, and I think that's really, really interesting because it adds a lot of tension to the story and it makes you like truly angry and frustrated for the main character as she is going through what you are witnessing her go through and deal with. So she is kind of on her own as far as like looking into the connection between all of these different cases, and I'm really, really liking this. I think that this is very well paced so far, being halfway through. It's not like super fast paced and super action packed, but it's not like so slow that it's dragging. I think information is being revealed to us at a pretty steady rate and the story is very steadily progressing, and I'm liking that. It also has, it's not like fully mixed media, but it has inclusions of, let me find an example. There's like excerpts of emails and newspaper clippings and like chat forums and chat bubbles and things like that, and I'm liking that. I've read 2 other books from Dawn Kurtagich, and those were young adult horror books, but that was something that I really loved in those, was that it did play with format and different types of media, and this is her adult debut, so I'm excited to see that she has kind of kept that same style throughout her novels, at least the ones that I've read. But yeah, I think the story is really, really interesting, and then we also have these side chapters every now and then that is from the perspective of a young girl named Jennifer, and she is in a very strange situation where we don't quite know what's going on and she doesn't quite know what's going on, but I think it's very clearly connected to everything that's happening with Lucy and with Mina's patient that she is treating. So this is going well. I'm very, very happy about it. My goal is to finish it tonight. It's been a pretty quick read and I am like halfway through it, so I think that should be easy. Well, hello. It is a new day once again, coming to you on Summerween day 6. I did finish The Madness last night, but it was past my bedtime, so I had to like run to bed. So of course I didn't do an update last night. I did take some notes on my phone, that's why it's sitting over here, just of some things that I wanted to say. But I do think it's a good idea that I didn't do an update last night, because I think I needed to let my rating sink in a little bit. I really wanted to call this a 4-star, but I do think, because there were a few little things that I wasn't really a big fan of, or things that I wanted more of in the book, so I think I'm gonna land on a 3.5, which of course that's not a bad rating. I don't think this was a bad book, and I would definitely recommend it. So let's start with the pros and then we'll get into the cons. Start with the positive, okay? First of all, I think you could definitely call this like a feminist book. It is about a group of women helping other women, protecting those women from dangerous men, and I think that any woman could really enjoy a story like that. So I would definitely say this is feminist leaning. As far as the vampire thing, which I know this is titled like reading vampire books, and so we all know by now that there's vampires in this book, but I do think it is maybe slightly spoilery of like everybody that's out here calling this a vampire book, because you don't learn about the vampires until pretty late in the story. Like the synopsis does say that there is a powerful nameless force that has been haunting her for years, and then it says there are dangers of, and it mentions a monster. So like it kind of alludes to it that there's some sort of creature in the story, but you don't really get confirmation on the vampires until pretty late in the book. So sorry if that spoiled it for anybody, like the fact that it's in a vampire themed vlog, but it kind of spoiled it for myself too, okay? We're in this together. But it was still enjoyable. But I would say, because that like vampire aspect doesn't come in until pretty late in the story, the first half of it really leans more towards like a mystery novel, because she is just trying to make the connection between all of these women and figure out like what is going on with these missing girls, and then, you know, how she can save her friend. And I do think that was very compelling and very intriguing. There is also some pretty good like body horror and nasty descriptions in here, although I will say it was a little bit repetitive at times. Like specific, I can't even say it, but like there's a specific thing that is prominent with all of these girls, and it's kind of described with the same words each time that it's mentioned, and I wish that that was changed up a little bit, because like, and it's not like common words, like they're very specific to this thing, and I feel like they were used more often than you would really think that they were used. That's not making any sense, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like it was kind of a little bit repetitive with the descriptions. Something else that I didn't like is there's kind of like a side romance, second chance romance plot in here, because like I said, our main character Mina, she is returning to her hometown to try to help her friend, and you know, she has a very complicated relationship with her mother, and all of that I really enjoyed. But then there's also a boy there who she was dating in the past, and when she left her hometown, she just kind of left him and like didn't tell him anything. And so they get their second chance, their redemption story in here. But I didn't really care for it, because there were a few flashbacks of like them as teenagers and what their relationship was like and how that started, and like the first time they had sex and everything. But he really was like an extremely flat character. I feel like he wasn't developed at all. He didn't really have a personality, and I just didn't feel connected to it. I didn't feel connected to their relationship. Like I didn't see the connection between them, and it's not like he was an important part of the story. He wasn't helping her solve the mystery and like trying to figure out what's happening with the friend that's like dying. He wasn't a central part of like the main plot of the story. He was just like on the side, and they would just like meet up and then like rekindle their romance for each other. And I just didn't care for it, because it felt really like there was no point to that being included in the story. I think she could have done away with that, and what I wish she had done, taken out that side plot and instead added more like world building, almost like make the story more atmospheric. We have this like small town feel. They're in Wales. It's one of those places where everybody knows everybody. Her mother is kind of, they call her the baddie witch on the hill. Like, everybody thinks she's crazy because she has all of these superstitions, and like natural holistic remedies and different things like that. And I thought that was interesting, and I wish the lore was built up a little bit more. Like I said, she could have taken out this weird second chance romance thing and added more to the atmosphere and like the overall vibe of the story and the relationship with her mother, and more flashbacks of like her and her friend in the past to really even more strongly feel the connection between them and keep it kind of focused on those like feminine themes of women fighting for other women. I think that I would have enjoyed the story more if that was more the focus of it, instead of, to me, it feels like wasting these pages on a pretty pointless romance. The sun is like right in my eyeballs right now, but that's fine because I think that's really all I have to say about this. I did like the way that the story wrapped up. I liked the main plot of it, like the mystery and the vampires and where all of that was going. It, at certain times, it felt to me like something Ashley Winstead would write, and I think if Ashley Winstead wrote this book, I would probably love it because I love her writing style. But I just think, I don't know, overall it felt lacking, but it was still very enjoyable. I'm like fully being blinded by this sun right now, so I'm gonna wrap it up, right? It's telling me to stop talking. Anyways, I started Vampires of El Norte today. I don't have anything to say about it because I am on chapter 3. I am 27 pages into it. So I'm going to make my dinner and continue reading this, and I promise I will come back to you tonight and give you an update on this before I go to bed. That's enough talking. That's enough sun in my face. I will see you guys later. First of all, if you hear voices in the background, that's my boyfriend upstairs playing a video game. I'm coming to you with bad news. I've been reading Vampires of El Norte. I got to chapter 10, which is a little over 100 pages in, and I think I'm gonna DNF. I am not liking this at all. Like, I'm over 100 pages in, and the story is just not gripping me. I don't really care about anything that's going on. I don't care about the characters. I am quite honestly bored, and I just look at this and I'm like, 260 more pages of something that I don't care about, and I just don't think I can bring myself to do that. That's really all it is. I feel like sometimes I have a really hard time DNFing books, and sometimes it's so easy for me, but like, I have to be realistic with myself. If I'm over 100 pages into this book and the story is not gripping me at all, why am I going to keep reading it? Because at this point, even if it goes up from here and I do finish it and it gets a little bit better, it's not going to get higher than 3 stars if I'm not enjoying 100 pages of the book. Should I tell you what it's about? I guess. I don't know. This is a dual POV. We have Nina and Nestor. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but this is 1840s in Mexico, and in the first chapter, Nina and Nestor, they are 13 years old, and they are going out to look for this like hidden silver that's kind of like a big myth or a legend, and Nina gets attacked by a vampire, and Nestor thinks that she's dead and that he is responsible for her death, so he flees. Now it is 9 years later, and he doesn't know that Nina's still alive, and Nina doesn't know why he left because she doesn't really remember the incident and what happened afterwards. So she doesn't know that he thought she died. Like, she just wakes up and he's gone, and she never hears from him for 9 years. And now, oh my god, the cat just got on the couch where the tripod is, so if it starts moving, that's why. Now there's this, I don't even know. I know it has to do with like colonization and Anglo settlers coming in to the land that they are on, and they're trying to get all of the men together to like go and fight. And then there's also like strange illnesses happening and legends of these vampires and these creatures. I don't know if I'm fully grasping everything, because like I said, I'm a little bit like, my eyes were glazing over while I was reading it, but that's the general premise. And so Nina and Nestor have just kind of like come back into each other's lives, because he comes back to like join the men to fight, and he is obviously very shocked to see Nina, and Nina is pissed at him because she thinks that he left, and I just don't really care about it. And I don't know, you're not supposed to do this. Well, I try not to do this when I'm reading books, but I did get on Goodreads and look at some reviews, because I was like, is there something wrong with me? Because I feel like I've only seen good things about this book. And I did see a few lower ratings, and a lot of people were saying that this should not be marketed as horror. And so far, like, I could definitely see why people are saying that, because it definitely is like very romance heavy at the moment and very light on the horror, and I just kind of assumed that was going to pick up, but maybe that never really does become a big thing. But I'm glad other people are kind of feeling like similarly to me, because I was thinking maybe it's just me because I don't like a lot of historical fiction and I don't read a lot of historical stuff, so maybe it's just the setting is not vibing with me, but I'm just not having a good time. I don't want to read anymore, and I'm gonna take my bookmark out and move on with my life. I probably won't read anymore for the night because it is getting a little bit late. I think I'm just gonna relax now and let my brain like just chill out after getting through over 100 pages of this book that I was not enjoying. So I will see you guys. I only have one more book for this video, so I guess that's good that now I'll definitely have time to finish that, because I wasn't sure if I was going to finish that one during Summerween. So I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully with an update on my next book. Welcome back. It is day 7 of Summerween. I'm on to my last vampire book, which is one that I just had a feeling that I was going to love, and I am now 140 pages in, and it is going well. This is We Love the Nightlife by Rachel Koller Croft. I'm enjoying it, but I don't have a lot to say because this is kind of low plot. Like, there's definitely a plot, there's something happening, but it's more just like about the vibes. So this is actually dual timeline, which I didn't know beforehand. I thought that the entire book takes place in 1979, but that is just one of the perspectives that you get, and then we also have a present day timeline. So this is about 2 women that are vampires, and we have Nicola and Amber. So Nicola is giving us the 1979 past timeline because she is the one that changed Amber. So in 1979, Amber is 23. They meet at a club, and then, you know, eventually Nicola turns her into a vampire. And then Amber is giving us the present day perspective because it's been nearly 50 years that they've been together, and she is just kind of over it, and she kind of like wants to leave and like do her own thing. But essentially the way that like the whole vampire thing works in this world is like the person who makes you a vampire is your maker, and you are tied to them. Like you have a very strong bond and connection with your maker, and it's not something that you can break or really leave. So Amber is kind of stuck in this relationship with Nicola. So she kind of, what her goal for the story is to find a replacement, somebody else that Nicola can become infatuated with, so that way it's easier for her to get away, because she can't just say, hey, I'm tired of this, I'm gonna go, because Nicola will likely kill her in that scenario. So like I said, there's a little bit of a plot, but it's kind of more just like about the vibes, which it's pulling off really, really well. Like I said, this part of it takes place in 1979 into the new year 1980, and obviously being vampires, they can't really go out in the day, so they are just hitting up all the nightclubs. It's the very like disco era. They are constantly out dancing, drinking, having a good time, and I'm so here for it. Like I literally put on a 70s disco playlist while I was reading this tonight, because I was like, I just feel like I need to be listening to disco music while I'm reading this book, and it's adding so much to the experience, and I'm just having like a great time with it for that reason. Also, like, it's vampires and I'm loving that. I think like I'm still learning what I like when it comes to vampire stories, but I think I really, really like things like this that are kind of like dark and like seductive, and I like when we get that scene where the person is turned into a vampire, and I like when it's kind of a little bit like seductive in nature, you know what I mean? That is the one complaint I will say about this book so far, is that why is this not gay? Because it feels like it needs to be gay. Like, we are following two women vampires in a very close relationship, and like things, it is sexually suggestive at times, and I'm like, can y'all just be gay? Like, please, like, can I have some gay sex in here? Like, they have this really, really close bond, but then they're like straight, and they're like going off on the side to like have sex with men, and I'm like, no, you guys are gay. Don't you understand that? You're attracted to females, okay? Let's just get that straight. That's how I feel like this book should be. And so that for me is like the one downside, which I guess like I shouldn't really criticize the book for that, but like in my opinion, this would be so much better if it was gay, okay? Let me just say that. But other than like the vibes and kind of the disco 70s aesthetic of it, like I don't have a lot to say about it. I'm just really loving it for that, and that is kind of just the type of book it is. Low plot, high in vibes, and it's a great time. I definitely don't think that this is really horror. Like, it is vampires. There have been some descriptions of like death and like scenes where they are feeding on human blood that are kind of brutal and violent in nature, but aside from that, it's not really like a horror book. It's kind of just like women's fiction about a woman trying to figure out what she wants in her life and trying to live life for herself, but it's also vampires. I don't know, this has been kind of a weird Summerween, because I feel like I'm picking up things that aren't quite giving like the horror vibes that I'm wanting with Summerween, but I'm still really enjoying this book, and I'm very happy to say that. I'm gonna put it down for the night, and then tomorrow is the last day of Summerween, so I'm gonna try to finish this tomorrow, but even if I don't end up finishing it for Summerween, like, I'm gonna keep the vlog going until I finish it. If I don't finish it tomorrow, probably the next day, just because like I want to give you guys a conclusion to this, and this is a whole vampire vlog, but we're still counting it as a Summerween read, okay? So I'm gonna put it down for the night. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully I can finish this then. Hopefully I'll have more to say about it, but it's just, I'm just vibing and enjoying the aesthetic of it right now. Hi, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, my face is a little bit sunburnt. We will get to that in just a second, but Summerween is now over. I did not do a lot of reading or come back for an update on the last day of Summerween, unfortunately. I had a busier weekend. It was my boyfriend's mom's birthday, so obviously we were spending time with her. We took her parasailing for her birthday, hence the sunburn thing. I promise I put sunscreen on, but the sun was extremely intense that day, and obviously we were out in it for a while on the boat and in the air parasailing, which, side note, this is the second time that I've gone parasailing, and I would highly recommend it. If you ever get the opportunity to do it, definitely take it, because it is well worth the money. It's not scary at all. It is so much fun. But that's why I didn't read, and I didn't technically finish my book during Summerween, but I'm counting it towards Summerween anyways. And I obviously wanted to come back and give you guys an update on the book, even though Summerween is now over. So I finished We Love the Nightlife, and I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I did really enjoy this one, but I honestly can't say too much about it. I wouldn't really classify it as a horror book. Like, it has some horror elements because it has to do with vampires. There are descriptions of murder. There is a lot of blood happening. It kind of has a thriller feel to it as well, because all of the characters are very manipulative and working secretively throughout the book. There is a little bit of tension, but it's really more so about the friendship dynamic and the toxic relationship of the 2 women, and I thought it was a really enjoyable read. It's kind of hard, like, I don't know who I would recommend this to. I guess anybody that loves, like, messy relationships, toxic relationships, if you like the drama of that all, but you're looking for something a little bit grittier, then maybe you could enjoy this one. I like the way that this wrapped up. I think that the action and the tension definitely, like, stepped it up a level in the later part of the book, and I like where it went. It shocked me a couple of times because there's, like, some twists that I just didn't see coming, because it wasn't like a book where I was expecting there to be a twist or anything. So I like the way that it ended. I really just enjoyed the story and the setting of it. I think, you know, the disco scene and being out at night and in the clubs, and part of the book taking place in the late 70s and the 80s was so much fun. I think it was captured very vividly and painted very vividly throughout the writing, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I think I will pick up this author's other release. It's called Stone Cold Fox, and I don't really know what that one's about because the synopsis doesn't give a lot, but I think it's kind of that same thing where it's like about a woman trying to figure out what she's doing with her life, but it's also a little bit like filled with drama and toxicity. And I don't know, I enjoyed this one. I don't think it will be for everybody. Definitely if you were looking for a vampire horror, this is not the one to pick up, but it was really fun despite it all, and I do still wish it was gay, but what can you do, you know? So that is the end of this vlog. We'll do a little Summerween wrap up. So I want to check in with the bingo board real quickly. So at the end of the last Summerween vlog that I uploaded, I had 3 things checked off on the bingo board. So in addition to that, I will check off read a book with the night sky on the cover. I read a few books that had a sky on the cover. The Madness by Dawn Kurtagich. I think Shutter Island counts as a night sky as well. And then also The Gathering by CJ Tudor. So that gives me a bingo there. And then the only other thing that I can check off on this is to listen to a Halloween playlist because I did put on my little Halloween playlist while I was reading The Madness, so I can check that one off. Unfortunately, I did not get the other ones, read a book that takes place in the desert. Technically, I think I could have counted Vampires of El Norte for it, but I didn't finish that book, so I don't think it counts. I did not read a book with 6 words in the title. I did not bake a fall-inspired treat. I am having a very busy moment in my life right now. And then watch a scary movie I was going to do, but I didn't because we are actually watching The Bear instead. We finally started watching that, which is kind of like a shocker because I never watch TV shows, so I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I definitely understand why it's so popular and why I see so many people talk about the show. We are on season 2 right now. So I didn't get a scary movie, but I did get a fun show out of it. However, despite all that, I still have my bingo, my 3 in a row diagonal, so I think that's pretty successful. As far as all of the books that I read, some of them I already had to take back to the library, so I don't have all of them to hold up for you, but I started off with When the Wolf Comes Home, which ended up being a 5-star, which I'm very, very happy about. Then I read Coup de Grace, which was the opposite. That was a 2-star. Then I read Shutter Island, which was a 4-star for me. And then I read The Gathering, which was 3.5 stars, and The Madness, which was also 3.5 stars. And then finishing out with another 4-star with We Love the Nightlife. So I would say overall it was pretty successful. I had a 2-star and I had a DNF, but everything else was pretty successful. So all in all, I finished 6 books this Summerween readathon. I did have 1 DNF, but I think that's still pretty good. So with all of that being said, I will end the vlog here. If you participated in Summerween, let me know down below what was your favorite read from the readathon. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.